All right, guys. I thought it was time I finally chimed in on this conversation, mostly because I'm tired of how many videos I'm getting recommended about it, but also because I watched a lot of them and realized I have kind of an interesting take on this one, and maybe a deeper reason that we haven't thought about as to why people are quitting YouTube. All right, so you guys already know what's been going on. I don't think I need to explain to you that people are quitting YouTube. Some of the most well-known YouTubers that we've seen over the past decade or so, maybe longer, are quitting or retiring or changing up how they're doing YouTube in massive ways. So after watching a lot of these videos and then the analysis of these videos, I've noticed a couple of themes, right? Number one is burnout. Obviously, there's a big theme of burnout here. People are running channels at a pace and a level of quality that they just can't sustain. And it's cutting into their well-being and their ability to kind of function and enjoy their life. I think the most kind of heartbreaking version of this we heard was from Matt Pat. Did I get that right? Matt Pat and Steph, and like this little clip here.
I don't love the fact that Steph and I have been work first for over a decade, where I'm sitting down at dinner with my best friend and we're talking about business logistics, or we're talking about animatronic toes. I miss the days where I could just sit down on the couch with her and play video games, and it's not for content.
So burnout seems to be the obvious sort of thing that this could all be boiled down to. But I would also say some of these people are retiring or taking breaks. So there's been a lot of the thumbnails and the titles are a little misleading at times. Some people are just kind of stepping back, but keeping their channel alive. But they're doing it in the very YouTube way of, making a dramatic statement like they're quitting YouTube, which is fine. We all do that. And then the other piece that I wanted to talk about is, I have a lot of cat hair on this mic. Okay. Well, problem for another day. Another piece that I want to talk about is scaling creativity. So Matt D'Avella goes into this in his video, but essentially we've seen time and time again people try to scale video and they can't. They try to scale creative services and they can't. And a lot of people are like, why is that? Especially business people who are like, everything's scalable and we can profit off everything. And I think it's because essentially like a creative endeavor will never be the same twice. And if it is, it's no longer a creative service or like a creative thing. So you can't edit a podcast the exact same way every time. It's not repeatable like manufacturing is, because you're going to say different stuff every time. And it's like it's a very human service or creating content. It's an artistry, really. Like when it comes down to it, a lot of us on here are creatives, and this is our art form. This is like how we express, and what makes content good or what makes art good is the humanness of it. And so you can't scale it because you take the humanness out of it, and now it's just a lesser vague version of the thing that it's sort of mimicking, which is the human version of it. So that might have got a little existential, but I feel like people sort of fall into two camps on YouTube. There's creatives / artists / filmmakers who are doing it or started it because they have a self-expression need. They love to make things. They love to tell stories, whether that be autobiographical or about something else. It's an inner thing that artists have. And then there's another camp of business owners and entrepreneurs and people who found out that YouTube can make money and started using it as a sales funnel or an audience growing machine so that they can fund their thing on the side, which I'm definitely not saying either is worse or better. I myself sort of am falling into somewhere in the middle, I'm finding. That's a story for another day. But what it feels like is creatives are not able to keep up with the demand that has been created by the algorithms or by this sort of content, like creating content versus creating a piece of creative expression. Content has become, I think, a shell of what it used to be or what it could be or what some people I feel like are still trying to maintain. But I think the struggle as an artist to create content on time, on demand, every week, inherently has taken a toll on the creative process and the creatives themselves. And some of this is because of like this very high effort content, the Mr. Beastification, as you call it, of YouTube, or even creatives like Matt Davella, who are amazing at what they do. Life of Riza. I mean, come on, they're making these beautiful pieces that are so noteworthy and so stunning, honestly, that like everyone is trying to do that, number one. And number two, I don't know how sustainable. They also don't produce as often, I've noticed. I think Matt did for years. I was like, what, every week, like, or every 2 weeks. But 2 weeks even is a huge difference from 1 week. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is I feel like that high effort, highbrow sort of YouTube is really hard to sustain, I think. And is creating levels of burnout that we haven't really seen before. Because I think this was the first sort of era where we saw that happen, or where that style became very popular. So we've got creatives who are kind of burning out, trying to keep up with what has now become the business model that is YouTube. And then we've got the sort of business owners who are using YouTube as a means to an end, and were never really invested in, I don't want to say the quality of their content, but like less invested for sure in YouTube as a platform, and I think they're a little less invested in, I'm sure it depends on the creator, but it feels like they're just filling a void, filling a need, filling a weekly to do, rather than a internal, like an external versus an internal need, I guess is how I kind of see it. And I could be wrong. So this is where I want to go a level deeper and kind of in an existential direction. So bear with me here. My nose is so itchy. All right, so creatives came to YouTube because they wanted to get away from essentially capitalism, a 9-to-5, the corporate job, the daily grind. They were done being burned out. They were done trading their time for money and not getting to live life on their own terms. And they wanted more freedom, and they wanted more self-expression, and they wanted to be able to make money on their own terms and doing their own thing. And it was entrepreneurial in that sense, right? And unfortunately, because of the greater systemic system that we live in, which is capitalism, we created the same monster here on YouTube that is out there, that exists out there. And so what I wanted to say that I think is a different take on this is that the problem isn't YouTube or algorithms or the new face of content or the fact that video isn't scalable. The real problem is capitalism, because inherently capitalism relies on a base of workers, people at the bottom that generate money for the owners at the top. That's just like the model of the system. And who are the people at the top really on YouTube? Like, I can give you a hint, it's not the content creators. It's the brands that are advertising through us. Maybe even YouTube itself. I don't really know that much about YouTube as a company, but I would imagine they are also profiting here. And we have become the workers in just a new, different format. And this is true of all the social media, any social media. We have harvested something that was creative and maybe started from a more creative, joyful place and turned it into another replica of of a profit generating, workforce. I don't know if I'm saying these words right. Listen, I'm not an economist or anything. I've probably barely scratched the surface of these topics. I barely know what I'm talking about, I'll be completely honest. But this is just what I've been feeling into more and more lately as I get more fed up with capitalism and the system that we're stuck in, and the need to generate money just to live. We were born here, first of all, put on this planet without our consent, and we can't live anywhere for free, or you can't exist without having to buy into this system of money. So longer conversation for another day. But and I know this is kind of out there and radical, and I'm gonna go an even more radical direction with this. Anyways, YouTube has become a means to an end, and I think that's what capitalism does inherently, is it takes things and makes them a means to an end. Everything becomes, how can I make this more profitable? How can I make this about money? And we don't get to inherently enjoy things for the internal value that they bring us. And this is essentially, at its core, my issue with capitalism. Because I know that people say, well, if we didn't have jobs... So here's the direction I want to go with this. What if we didn't have money? I know. But if you think that not having money is extreme, then also having money is an extreme. So, they're both radical. It's fun to think about. Let's just go on thought experiment alone. Curiosity, let's talk it through. Okay, we don't have money anymore. People don't have to go to work. They don't have to earn. Oh, God, that feels so good. Okay, they don't have to earn the right to exist and to live and to thrive. Okay. I think, and I watched a lot of TED Talks on this, that people, I think that we love to work. I think that we love to express our values and our passions. I think that we are curious and interested by nature. I think that we are inventive and that we all have things we would find to do in a society where we didn't have to make money. So a lot of people argue, oh, nobody would work, everybody would just sit around and do nothing. I don't think that's true at all. In fact, how many people do you know who have started side hustles or side things or hobbies and things because, they want that fulfillment outside of work. They want something that lights them up. And a lot of times it's work that keeps us from being able to fully express as a human being and go down these different avenues that interest us. I think we would serve on a really big level. And I didn't mean that in a serve way, but I think we would truly slay on a bigger level if we were freed up from this need to financially support ourselves, essentially. So I also think what it comes down to also is that we want to work. We want to work aligned with our values. And what happens because of the traditional workforce system that we live in and all the things I already mentioned, is we end up having to sacrifice our values to take a job, to pay the bills, and so I really don't think it's about that we don't want to work. And then, I know there are, a ton of other questions you probably have about a system without money that probably I can't answer, but there are tons of videos out there on YouTube that I encourage you to look into if you're interested. I can link some below too, but another thing was, the government spends so much time trying to balance wealth inequality and trying to balance, money and the economy. And all that would be gone, and they could just focus on actually helping people, helping and creating things that work for the people. So, I don't know. The more I look into it, I'm this is interesting. So, anyways. Okay, so that's sort of one direction you could go with this argument is, we need to just do away with money and capitalism and all the systems in place that perpetuate using things as a means to an end. And I also want to offer another perspective or direction you could kind of take this that also resonates with me, and that is, if you look at, this is a more spiritual direction, I would say. If you look at, I think my mouth just farted. If you look at, okay, take the story of the Buddha or Moses, or literally any story we've ever heard about wealth, success, and making it to the top. How many times have we heard, I got my dream job and I realized it wasn't about the dream job, that life wasn't about the material things, that I didn't need more money to be more fulfilled, that actually the more money I got or the more successful I became, the bigger the void in my life became. And I think for those of us who haven't made insane amounts of money or reached that level of completion and wealth are like, must be nice, you know what I mean? Or like, easy for you to say, but it is easy for them to say because they would know. And I have to wrestle with this myself because I have always been ambitious. I have always wanted to, I'm a Capricorn through and through. I've always wanted to generate a lot of wealth. I've always wanted like financial stability. And I think financial stability is even different from what I'm talking about of like big wealth, you know, like it would be amazing. It would be so amazing. We all think, right? Like it just feels like the dream. And so I have to help myself remember. And so I wanted to share this with you as well. That like we know this story, we've heard this story thousands of times from celebrities, from from Mother Teresa, from biblical stories and historic ancient texts. We know how this ends. We know what happens when you make it to the top. The top isn't always what we expect it to be or dream that it will be. So we have to look in here. We have to look in here for fulfillment. We have to look in here for our joy, for our fulfillment is the only word that really fits. Because I think that's what we're all seeking out there with money. Is when I have this money, I'll be able to do X, Y, Z, and I'll be able to blah, 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 and then I will be at peace, and then I will be fulfilled, and then I can really live. And so I've been really, really trying to work myself on how can I live that way now? How can I express those values in smaller, meaningful ways, like the value of freedom. What can I do that makes me feel free? Can I just like drive with my windows down? Like that makes me feel free. Blasting Taylor Swift? Heck yeah. What if it's okay to live a small life? If I lived a small life, could I be happy with that? Could I truly be happy with that? And if that's a no, or like, I'm not sure, then that's kind of pointing exactly where I'm talking about. And yeah, like what if there's beauty and peace and joy in the material lessness? What if it's okay to live a small and private life? What if I like this little life? Why does stuff like that resonate? Because we already know that the answer is not out there. It's not at the top. So yeah, I fully believe we came here to play and thrive, no matter where you're at, circumstances wise. And I just want to play more here on YouTube. Like, this is fun for me. I've really enjoyed like getting into vlogging more and like sharing my thoughts and opinions, even though it's terrifying as well. It's sort of healing for me because I never felt like my opinions mattered for a really long time. And I have shut down my own opinions for a very long time. So it's been a really cool self-healing, self-growth journey so far. And I just want to continue to play and engage in the global conversations that happen here on YouTube. So thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to my thoughts on this. I know that we went some weird places. Thank you for trusting me. And I hope that I don't know. I just hope this was like a perspective you haven't heard yet on this topic, because I know that everyone's making content on this topic. So yeah, I think that's it. Okay. Thanks for watching. I know I said that already. And I'll see you guys next time.